The wedding that never was. Victoria Hayes stood frozen in the bridal suite of Riverside Manor, her wedding dress shimmering under the crystal chandelier. The ivory gown had taken 6 months to design, every detail perfect from the delicate lace sleeves to the pearl buttons running down her spine. Outside the mahogany doors, 300 guests waited in the garden, unaware that the ceremony would never begin. Her hands trembled as she held Brandon's tablet, the email chain glowing accusingly on the screen. She had found it by accident when looking for the wedding playlist. What she discovered instead shattered everything she believed about the man she was about to marry. The messages were clear and cruel. Brandon had been planning this for over a year. Her art gallery, Hayes Fine Arts, was the real prize. Through marriage, he would gain joint ownership, then slowly push her out while selling off her father's precious collection. The final email, sent just that morning, laid out his timeline with businesslike precision. Once the gallery is legally mine, I will liquidate the entire collection. Victoria is too sentimental about her father's legacy to ever see the real value. This marriage is simply the fastest route to a 7-figure payday. Victoria's vision blurred with tears. Her father had spent 40 years building that collection, traveling the world to find emerging artists, nurturing talent that others overlooked. He had died 3 years ago, leaving the gallery to Victoria with absolute trust in her ability to continue his vision. Now Brandon wanted to destroy it all for money. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Victoria quickly locked the tablet and shoved it into her beaded clutch. "Victoria, sweetheart, we are running 10 minutes behind schedule." Grace's voice floated through the door, warm and concerned. Her best friend had been with her through everything since college, through her father's death, through meeting Brandon at that charity auction 2 years ago. Victoria stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, her makeup flawless, her bouquet of white orchids and trailing jasmine already wilting slightly in the warm June air. She looked like every bride's dream, but inside she felt hollow and foolish. How had she missed the signs? Brandon's sudden interest in the gallery's insurance policies. His casual questions about which pieces were most valuable. The way he always steered conversations toward her father's business contacts and collectors. She had interpreted his curiosity as genuine interest in her world when it was actually cold calculation. "I need a moment," Victoria called out, her voice surprisingly steady. "Tell them to start the music. I will be right there." She heard Grace's footsteps retreat down the hallway. Victoria knew she had maybe 5 minutes before someone came back to check on her. 5 minutes to decide whether to go through with the biggest mistake of her life or find the courage to walk away from everything she had planned. Her phone buzzed with a message from Brandon. "See you at the altar, beautiful. Our future starts today." The casual lie in those words made her decision easy. The stranger's mercy. Victoria slipped out of the bridal suite through the service entrance, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. The hallway was mercifully empty, all the staff busy with the ceremony preparations. She moved quickly, her heels clicking against the marble floor, the heavy dress making her movements awkward and desperate. She burst through the side door into blinding sunlight and nearly collided with a black sedan parked near the service area. Without thinking, she yanked open the passenger door and threw herself inside, her dress billowing around her in a cloud of silk and tulle. The driver turned to stare at her with startled gray eyes. He was older than Brandon, probably in his early 40s, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples. His charcoal suit was impeccably tailored, and there was something commanding about his presence that made Victoria feel both safer and more reckless at the same time. "Drive," she gasped. "Please, just drive." For a moment that stretched impossibly long, he simply looked at her. Victoria saw his gaze take in her wedding dress, her tear-streaked makeup, the desperation written across her face. Then, without a single question, he put the car in gear and pulled away from Riverside Manor. Victoria watched through the window as the venue disappeared behind them. She could see guests beginning to mill about on the lawn, confusion spreading through the crowd. She felt a hysterical laugh bubble up in her throat but swallowed it down, pressing her bouquet against her chest like a shield. They drove in silence for several minutes, weaving through the city streets. Victoria had no idea where they were going and found she did not care. Anywhere was better than that wedding, that lie, that betrayal waiting to consume everything her father had built. "Are you hurt?" The driver's voice was deep and careful, like someone speaking to a frightened animal. Victoria shook her head. "No. Not physically." He nodded slowly, his eyes returning to the road. "Do you have somewhere you need to go? Someone I should call?" The question made Victoria realize she had nowhere. Her apartment was one she shared with Brandon. The gallery was closed for her supposed honeymoon week. Grace would be frantically trying to manage the chaos at the manor. Her other friends were all at the wedding, probably already hearing whatever story Brandon was spinning about her disappearance. "I have no idea," she admitted, and the truth of it made her laugh bitterly. "I just knew I had to leave." The stranger glanced at her again, and Victoria saw something shift in his expression. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition of a kindred spirit who knew what it meant to run from something unbearable. "I know a place," he said finally. "It's quiet and safe. You can catch your breath and figure out your next move." Victoria studied his profile. There was a scar along his jawline, faint but visible, and his hands on the steering wheel were steady and sure. She knew she was taking a tremendous risk trusting a complete stranger, but something in his quiet competence made her feel safer than she had in months. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. He was quiet for a moment, navigating through traffic with practiced ease. When he finally spoke, his voice carried weight Victoria did not fully understand yet. "Because someone once helped me when I was running from my own mistakes," he said. "And because no one should have to face their worst day completely alone." Victoria felt fresh tears sting her eyes, but these were different from the angry, betrayed tears she had shed in the bridal suite. These tears came from unexpected kindness, from the strange grace of a stranger who asked nothing and offered everything. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once. "My name is Nathan. Nathan Sterling." "Victoria Hayes," she replied, clutching her bouquet tighter. "And I think you might have just saved my life." Nathan's expression remained carefully neutral, but Victoria thought she saw the ghost of a smile touch his lips. "The day is young, Victoria," he said. "Let's make sure it improves from here." A haven in the storm. Nathan Sterling pulled the sedan into an underground parking garage beneath a sleek glass building in the financial district. Victoria noticed how his movements were precise and unhurried, like someone accustomed to maintaining control even in unusual circumstances. He guided the car into a reserved spot marked with his name and cut the engine. "This is my building," he explained, turning to face her properly for the first time. "My penthouse is on the top floor. You can stay there as long as you need to sort things out." Victoria felt a flutter of anxiety. She was sitting in a wedding dress in the car of a man whose last name she had learned 5 minutes ago, about to go to his home. Every safety instinct her father had taught her screamed warning, yet something deeper told her Nathan Sterling was not a threat. "I know how this looks," Nathan said quietly, reading her hesitation with unsettling accuracy. "I can take you to a hotel instead if that makes you more comfortable. But hotels ask questions, and right now you look like someone who needs privacy more than anything else." He was right. Victoria could already imagine the social media posts spreading through her circles. The abandoned wedding would be tomorrow's gossip headline. She needed time to think, to plan, to understand the full scope of Brandon's betrayal before facing the world. "Your penthouse," she decided. "But I need to make some calls. People will be worried." Nathan nodded and stepped out, coming around to open her door with old-fashioned courtesy. Victoria gathered her enormous dress and managed to extract herself from the car with as much dignity as possible. Her heels clicked against the concrete as they walked to a private elevator, Nathan using a key card to activate it. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft classical music playing through hidden speakers. Victoria watched the floor numbers climb, feeling as though she was ascending out of one life and into something completely unknown. When the doors opened directly into Nathan's penthouse, she caught her breath. The millionaire's world. The space was stunning in its understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city skyline. The interior design balanced modern minimalism with warm touches, rich hardwood floors, carefully chosen artwork that showed genuine taste rather than expensive showmanship, and furniture that looked both beautiful and actually comfortable. The guest suite is through there, Nathan gestured toward a hallway. It has its own bathroom and balcony. Take whatever time you need. I will be in my study if you need anything. Victoria walked slowly through the penthouse, her dress rustling against the furniture. The guest suite was larger than her entire apartment with Brandon. The bathroom featured a marble shower and a soaking tub that looked like heaven. Fresh towels were folded on warming racks, and the closet held a plush white robe. She caught sight of herself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her carefully styled hair was coming loose, mascara tracks stained her cheeks, and her eyes held a wildness she had never seen before. This morning she had been Victoria Hayes, bride-to-be, respected gallery owner, dutiful daughter carrying on her father's legacy. Now she was a runaway bride hiding in a stranger's penthouse with her entire life in chaos. Victoria carefully removed her veil and began the painstaking process of unbuttoning the dress. It took 20 minutes and several frustrating moments of twisting, but finally she stepped out of the ivory creation and left it pooled on the floor like a shed skin. She wrapped herself in the robe and sat on the edge of the enormous bed, finally allowing herself to fully process what had happened. Her phone had been buzzing constantly. She scrolled through the messages with detached interest. Brandon's texts had evolved from confused to angry. Grace's messages were increasingly frantic. Her aunt had called 6 times. The wedding photographer wanted to know if they were still doing portraits. The caterer needed to know about the reception. Victoria typed a single message to Grace, "I am safe. Found out something terrible about Brandon. Could not go through with it. Will explain everything soon. Please trust me." Grace's response came within seconds, "Thank God you are alive. Brandon is telling everyone you had a breakdown. Where are you?" Victoria hesitated, then typed, "Somewhere safe with someone kind. I will call you tomorrow when I can think straight." She turned off her phone before Grace could respond, cutting herself off from the chaos she had created. The silence that followed was both terrifying and liberating. Unexpected conversations. After a long shower that washed away her makeup and the remnants of her carefully constructed bridal appearance, Victoria emerged feeling slightly more human. She found clothes in the closet, yoga pants and a soft sweater that were clearly brand new with tags still attached. Nathan must have had someone bring them while she was showering. The thoughtfulness of the gesture made her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. She found Nathan in his study, a book-lined room that overlooked the city. He had changed into casual clothes, dark jeans and a gray Henley that made him look more approachable and somehow younger. He was reading something on his tablet, a glass of amber liquid beside him. "Feel better?" he asked, looking up with genuine concern in his gray eyes. "Different," Victoria said honestly. "Not sure about better yet." Nathan gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. "Sit. Talk if you want. Or sit in silence if you prefer. Both are acceptable." Victoria sank into the chair, curling her legs beneath her. The study felt like a sanctuary, all warm lighting and comfortable silence. She noticed the books on his shelves, business texts mixed with philosophy, history, and surprisingly, poetry. "You read Rumi?" she asked, noticing a worn collection on the nearest shelf. Nathan smiled slightly. "My mother's influence. She believed business moguls needed poetry to stay human. Business mogul? Victoria raised an eyebrow. What exactly do you do, Nathan Sterling? Real estate development, primarily. I buy struggling properties, renovate them, and either sell or lease them to businesses that need space but cannot afford new construction. It sounds more glamorous than it is. Mostly it involves paperwork and negotiating with contractors. Victoria studied him more carefully. His calm demeanor, the expensive penthouse, the way he moved through the world with quiet confidence. This was a man accustomed to power, yet he had shown her nothing but gentle consideration. Why did you really help me? She asked. People do not just drive away with runaway brides without asking questions. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made Victoria lean forward. 8 years ago, I made a terrible mistake in business. I trusted the wrong partner, and it cost good people their livelihoods. 23 families lost their jobs because I did not see the betrayal coming until it was too late. He met her eyes directly. Someone helped me rebuild after that. Gave me a chance when I deserved nothing but judgment. I learned that sometimes the greatest gift we can offer is trust at someone's lowest moment. Victoria felt something shift in her chest. This was not just a wealthy stranger performing casual charity. Nathan understood betrayal from the inside, knew what it meant to have your world collapse because you trusted the wrong person. What happened to your partner? She asked quietly. Nathan's expression hardened almost imperceptibly. He went to prison for fraud. But the damage was done. Those families did not get their jobs back just because justice was served. Is that why you do what you do now? Helping struggling businesses? Partially. It is also good business. But yes, I suppose I am trying to balance some cosmic ledger that probably does not care about my efforts. Victoria found herself smiling despite everything. I think the ledger cares more than you realize. They talked for hours as the sun set over the city and the skyline transformed into a glittering constellation of lights. Victoria told him about her father, about building the gallery, about how Brandon had seemed like a genuine partner who shared her passion for art. She explained about the emails, the cold calculation behind his proposal, the year of lies she had been living without knowing it. Nathan listened without judgment, occasionally asking thoughtful questions but never offering easy platitudes. When Victoria finally fell silent, exhausted from reliving the day, he refilled her water glass and stood. Tomorrow you will need to face some practical matters, he said. But tonight, you survived something that would break most people. That deserves acknowledgement. Victoria stood as well, suddenly aware of how late it had gotten. Nathan, I do not know how to thank you. This kindness from a stranger when my fiancé was planning to destroy everything I love, the contrast is almost too much to process. Nathan's expression grew serious. Victoria, there is something you should know. Something about my past that might change how you feel about accepting my help. A chill ran down Victoria's spine at his tone. What do you mean? He hesitated, and in that pause Victoria saw shadows cross his face. The partner who betrayed me 8 years ago? The one who went to prison? His name was Brandon Cole. And based on your description, I believe he is the same man you almost married today. The room tilted sickeningly. Victoria gripped the edge of the desk, her mind racing through the implications. Brandon had worked with Nathan before? That means he had done this before, targeted someone else, destroyed lives as casually as one might discard trash. Why did you not say anything in the car? She managed to ask. I was not certain until you told me about the gallery, about his interest in your father's collection. Brandon has a pattern. He finds people with valuable assets, gains their trust, and then systematically destroys them while taking everything he can. Nathan's voice was tight with controlled anger. Victoria, you need to understand something. Brandon Cole is not just a con artist. He is dangerous in ways that go beyond financial fraud. Victoria felt her legs weaken. Nathan caught her arm gently, steadying her. "Sit down," he said. "There is more you need to know, and none of it is easy to hear." As Victoria sank back into the chair, she realized her escape from the wedding was not an ending at all. It was the beginning of something far more complicated and potentially dangerous than she could have imagined. And Nathan Sterling, her unexpected savior, was somehow connected to it all through a past that was about to collide with her present in ways she could not yet comprehend. Nathan poured himself another drink, his hands steady despite the tension radiating from his shoulders. Victoria watched him move around the study, her mind struggling to process the revelation that her nightmare and his past were entangled in ways she never could have anticipated. "Brandon Cole came to me 8 years ago with what seemed like a brilliant opportunity," Nathan began, settling into the chair across from her. "He claimed to have connections with historic property owners who wanted to sell but needed discretion. The deals looked legitimate on paper. The properties were real, the owners existed, and the profit margins were reasonable rather than suspiciously high." Victoria leaned forward, needing to understand how someone like Nathan, clearly intelligent and successful, had fallen for Brandon's schemes. What went wrong? Brandon had forged the ownership documents. The real owners had no intention of selling, and some did not even know their properties were being used in fraudulent deals. By the time I discovered the truth, I had already taken investments from 23 families who trusted me with their retirement savings, their children's college funds, their entire futures. Nathan's voice cracked slightly. Brandon disappeared with the investment money. The families lost everything, and I was left holding legal responsibility for deals I thought were legitimate. "But you said he went to prison," Victoria said. "You must have proven it was fraud." "Eventually, yes. It took 2 years of investigation, hiring private detectives, and tracking Brandon through 3 different aliases. When we finally found him, he was running the same scheme in another city with different victims. The evidence was overwhelming, and he received a 7-year sentence." Nathan met her eyes directly. "He was released 4 months ago." The timeline hit Victoria like ice water. 4 months ago was exactly when Brandon had suddenly become more interested in the gallery's financial details, when he had started asking about her father's collection with renewed intensity. She felt nauseous realizing how deliberately he had targeted her. "He found me on purpose," she whispered. "The charity auction where we met was not coincidence. He researched me, knew about the gallery, knew about my father's death leaving me vulnerable." Nathan nodded grimly. "Brandon is methodical. He studies his targets, learns their weaknesses, and exploits them with surgical precision. After his release, I kept tabs on him through a security consultant. I knew he was in the city, but I lost track of him about 6 weeks ago. I had no idea he was targeting someone new until you told me about the gallery tonight." Victoria stood abruptly, pacing the study as fury replaced her shock. "He was going to steal everything. My father spent his entire life building that collection, supporting artists nobody else believed in, creating something meaningful in a world obsessed with profit. Brandon saw it all as just another payday." "That is who he is," Nathan said quietly. "He sees people as resources to be extracted and discarded. The families he destroyed through me, the artists your father championed, your own heartbreak, none of it matters to him beyond its utility in getting what he wants." Victoria stopped at the window, staring out at the city lights blurring through her angry tears. Behind her, she heard Nathan stand and approach, his footsteps quiet on the hardwood floor. "Victoria, there is something else you need to know." His voice was closer now, careful and concerned. "The reason I have been tracking Brandon is not just about justice for what he did to me. During his trial, evidence emerged suggesting he has connections to organized fraud networks. People who do more than steal money. People who eliminate obstacles when necessary." The chill that ran through Victoria was primal and terrifying. "You think I am in danger?" I think you walked away from a wedding that would have given Brandon legal access to millions in art. I think he is not someone who accepts defeat gracefully. And I think you need protection until we can figure out exactly how deep his current operation goes." Victoria turned to face Nathan, seeing him clearly for the first time, not just as a kind stranger but as someone who understood the true scope of what she was dealing with. His gray eyes held both concern and determination, and the scar along his jawline suddenly seemed like evidence of battles fought rather than just an aesthetic detail. "Why are you telling me all this?" she asked. "You could have just dropped me at a hotel and walked away. Instead, you are involving yourself in something potentially dangerous." Nathan stepped closer, and Victoria felt the air between them charged with unspoken understanding. "Because 8 years ago, I failed to protect 23 families from a predator I should have recognized. I cannot undo that failure, but I can make sure Brandon Cole does not destroy another innocent person." He paused, his expression softening. "And because from the moment you jumped into my car in that wedding dress, desperate and brave and refusing to let fear make your decisions for you, I knew you were someone worth protecting." Unlikely alliance. The next morning, Victoria woke to sunlight streaming through the guest suite windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For a disoriented moment, she forgot where she was, then reality crashed back with overwhelming force. She was in Nathan Sterling's penthouse, hiding from her criminal ex-fiancé, her entire life in shambles. She found Nathan in the kitchen, surprisingly domestic in jeans and a t-shirt, scrambling eggs while scrolling through something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered and offered a small smile. "Coffee is fresh. I was not sure how you take it, so everything is on the counter." Victoria fixed herself a cup, grateful for the normalcy of the ritual. "You cook?" "Basic survival skills. I lived alone for a long time after my business collapsed. Could not afford to eat out, so I learned." He plated the eggs and added toast. "Sit. We need to make some plans." Over breakfast, Nathan outlined his proposal. His security consultant, a former federal investigator named Jackson Price, would look into Brandon's current activities. Meanwhile, Nathan's lawyer would help Victoria secure restraining orders and begin the process of investigating the financial documents Brandon had forged in her name. "What about the gallery?" Victoria asked, anxiety tightening her chest. "If Brandon has already put it up as collateral for loans, I could lose it before we can prove the forgery." "That is where things get complicated," Nathan admitted. "Legal processes take time, and time is something we may not have much of. However, there might be another option." He explained that his real estate company could purchase the gallery outright, taking it out of Brandon's reach immediately. Victoria would continue to run it exactly as before, but the ownership would be protected from Brandon's schemes. "You would buy my father's gallery?" Victoria felt torn between gratitude and unease. "Nathan, that is too much. You barely know me. I know you jumped out of a wedding rather than let someone destroy what your father built. I know you spent last night figuring out how to protect your artists and employees rather than wallowing in self-pity. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. "Besides, this is not charity. Your gallery is a solid business with real value. I would be making a sound investment while also making sure Brandon cannot touch it." Victoria wanted to argue, but the logic was undeniable. Pride would not save the gallery. Accepting help from someone who understood the stakes might. "What do you get out of this?" she asked. "Really? Beyond investment returns and helping another one of Brandon's victims." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his gray eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Honestly? I am not entirely sure yet. But when I saw you yesterday, running from a lie that would have consumed you, I recognized something I thought I had lost years ago. The courage to walk away from disaster even when it costs everything. I want to be part of making sure that courage leads somewhere good." Before Victoria could respond, Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression darkened. It is Jackson. He found something. The final revelation. Jackson Price arrived 20 minutes later, a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with shrewd eyes and the bearing of someone who had seen too much human darkness to be surprised by anything. He spread documents across Nathan's dining table while Victoria and Nathan stood on either side, examining the evidence of Brandon's latest schemes. "Your instincts were correct," Jackson said, looking at Nathan. "Brandon Cole has been operating under 3 different names since his release. He targeted Miss Hayes specifically because of her gallery's value, but she is not his only current mark. There are at least 2 other women he has been cultivating relationships with, both with significant assets." Victoria felt sick. He is doing this to multiple people simultaneously. It is how he operates. Multiple schemes running at once means if one falls through, he still has others to exploit. Jackson pulled out another document. But here is where things get interesting. The commercial loan Brandon took out using the gallery as collateral? The lending company is a shell corporation with ties to the same fraud network we suspected during his original trial. This is not just individual theft anymore. Brandon is working with organized criminals. Nathan's jaw tightened. Which means Victoria is not just dealing with a con artist. She is dealing with people who have resources and reach beyond what we initially thought. Exactly. And there is something else. Jackson looked directly at Victoria. "Brandon has been asking questions about you through various channels. He knows you are not at your apartment. He knows you did not check into any local hotels. He is actively looking for you." The fear that Victoria had been suppressing since last night surged forward. "What do I do? I cannot hide forever. I have a business to run, employees who depend on me, artists who are counting on upcoming exhibitions." "You do exactly what you were planning to do," Nathan said firmly. "You take back control of your life. But you do it smart, with protection and legal support. Jackson will coordinate security. My lawyer will handle the legal paperwork. And I will make sure Brandon Cole understands that you are not alone and undefended anymore." Victoria looked between the 2 men, seeing the determination in their faces. These were people who understood how to fight back against predators, who had experience navigating the dangerous waters she had stumbled into. But more than that, she saw genuine concern. Nathan Sterling, this unexpected millionaire who had entered her life at its most chaotic moment, was offering not just financial help but true partnership in facing down a threat most people would run from. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked Nathan again, needing to understand the truth beneath his careful explanations. Nathan met her eyes, and Victoria saw something shift in his expression. Vulnerability, perhaps, or recognition of a connection neither of them had expected to find. "Because 8 years ago, Brandon Cole took everything from me and I rebuilt alone, carrying guilt for people I could not save. But yesterday, when you got into my car, I saw a chance to rewrite that story. Not to fix the past, but to make sure history does not repeat itself." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "And because in the last 24 hours, I have seen more genuine courage, intelligence, and integrity in you than I have seen in most people in a lifetime. Whatever is happening between us, whatever this connection is, I want to see where it leads once we are not in crisis mode." Victoria felt her heart race at the honesty in his words. She barely knew this man, yet he had shown her more loyalty and understanding than Brandon had in 2 years of careful deception. The irony was not lost on her that running from one man had led her directly to someone who might actually deserve her trust. "All right," she said, straightening her shoulders with new resolve. "Let us do this. Let us protect the gallery, stop Brandon, and make sure he cannot hurt anyone else. But Nathan, after this is over, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about whatever this is between us." Nathan smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face into something warmer and infinitely more appealing. "I am counting on it." As Jackson began outlining the security protocols and legal strategies, Victoria felt something she had not experienced since jumping into Nathan's car the day before: hope. Her wedding had been a lie, her relationship a calculated fraud, and her trust shattered by betrayal. But standing in Nathan Sterling's penthouse, surrounded by people determined to help her fight back, she realized that sometimes the worst moments in life open doors to possibilities you never imagined. Brandon Cole had tried to steal her future. Instead, he had inadvertently led her to someone whose past made him uniquely equipped to help her build something better. The road ahead would be difficult, filled with legal battles and potential danger. But Victoria Hayes was no longer the naive woman who had almost married a con artist. She was someone who had found the courage to run, the strength to trust again, and the determination to fight for everything that mattered. And beside her stood a man with chilling secrets of his own, a past marked by betrayal and loss, but also by resilience and an unexpected capacity for helping wounded souls find their way back to solid ground. Whatever happened next, Victoria knew she would not face it alone. The story of how devastation led to unexpected salvation was just beginning. And sometimes, the most powerful love stories start not with fairy tale romance but with two broken people choosing to stand together against the darkness that tried to consume them both. The end.